Yeah. Hard. Militant-minded general, nine gripped, equipped with blades and a pen that can sharpen your spine's tip. Level-headed, though my mind flips from side to side with an acrobat's experience. After I stick it, I'm luring down a demon-possessed Ahiye. Seems Jay's the best for the job with no code.
What's the word, y'all? It's KTR Podcast, on the Rose Podcast. You are now live and direct with your boys, Cinko, Big Javier, and J-Bo himself for episode 2 of season 2 of KTR Know the Ropes podcast. My brothers, how are y'all doing today on this Sunday morning?
Bueno, apparently. Yeah.
For those that don't know right now or listening to the podcast, not watching on YouTube, Big Harv, aka Javier, right now, he kind of shaved his face, so I gave him a new name change, but he's still Big Harv to us, but you might not recognize him right now, so we might have to change a picture on the title interest and everything. So we'll get that update for you. But Big Harv, J-Bo himself, how y'all feeling today? Well, I'm gonna ask again.
I'm well at the moment.
That's
just
good.
wait.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Harv.
Harv,
Don't speak. Yeah. Let's
Javier?
get the ball rolling.
Just get the ball rolling. All right, let's keep it going, keep it rolling. Before we get started on this episode, please be sure to do one thing for us. Follow us on all social media platforms, KTR_podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Know the Ropes Podcast, Facebook, and YouTube. Know the Ropes Podcast on all podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Pipebomb. We are on everything. And don't forget to buy your merch on ProWrestlingTees.com/KTR Podcast.
Hey, I keep posting the link. Y'all better buy a damn shirt. You see that link?
Okay.
You see it?
Let's ease the tension.
We got plenty of colors. All right. Logos.
Let's bring it down.
All right.
We'll plug it. We'll plug it back in again. The show.
All right. Make it happen. Buy some merchandise. Big Javi.
Well, way to ease the mood now. Okay.
I kind of like
it. It grew on you.
Yeah.
Unlike your mustache right now. But anyway, moving on. Today is Sunday. Today, I have a mustache. Thank you. Today is Sunday. Sunday morning. And something that's significant about, excuse me, I'm talking, if you don't mind. Please and thank you. I'm trying to get the show rolling. You like trying to get the ball rolling? Like I said? Thank you. All right, cool.
Business.
Yeah. Today's a significant day. Today is Sunday. On this Sunday, 10 years ago today. Damn, that was 10 years ago. We are. Oh God, man, I was in my teens 10 years ago.
Yes, we were.
Yeah, no, not hard, but we were though, J-Bo. But yeah, I think Harv was pushing a stroller or something. But anyway, though, 10 years ago to this day, the infamous CM Punk Pipebomb promo was delivered to the WWE Monday Night Raw universe. He spit some real stuff. He's got a lot of stuff off his chest to the point where they had to mute his mic and cut the whole show off. Some people think it was a work. Some people think it was real. Some people like me, I have no idea. But shoot, bravo to you speaking how you felt. But going to that, how do y'all feel about the pipe bomb and how you feel like it's relevant in today's world within the wrestling business of WWE?
CM Punk, he was a wrestler who you can tell, especially when he got into the cult of personality phase, where he was authentic in everything that he did. His personality is even transcending now, even off of wrestling. The pipe bomb was just the start of what we saw here in pro wrestling, where he name dropped Ring of Honor. He name dropped New Japan Pro Wrestling, which were the big, other wrestling organizations at the time. He talked about how if Triple H takes over, then the company is done for. And if you take a look at wrestling now, they're pulling wrestlers from Ring of Honor. They practically don't have any real heavy hitters like they used to. You got New Japan Pro Wrestling. They brought wrestlers from over there, even AEW trying to. Like what he spoke on is what they're trying to do now, I guess, to prove a point, but it's still not working. Triple H, he's over NXT, and I think it's great. NXT is working well, but at this point, CM Punk just pretty much spoken to the future. Pretty much saying that how wrestling is and how great wrestling was, they couldn't admit it. So instead of admitting it, they just pulled wrestlers from them and just brought them into their company, and they're pretty much just washing them down now. So we're not going to get another pipe bomb like that. Anything else is not going to be authentic. In fact, they tried to do that. I forgot what that with AJ or with some other AJ Lee. They tried to do it with some other wrestler over time. It just didn't work. It didn't, because it wasn't authentic, and we know it copied. So yeah, it's still transcendent. We can still see relevance of his speech today.
That AJ Lee cut actually did work at the time. It's not as memorable, but there was a lot of news about that when she came out talking on the Bellas, trying to have Cena and them and all that. It did hit.
Yeah.
Not as infamous. Pipe Bomb promo, easily top 5 promos all time, because it did change the landscape of wrestling. Still is to this day. Punk was always a great talker. He always had a good food. He always knew how to work a character. And I don't know if you ever saw the documentary Cinko, but he did come out with a documentary and clarified that it was planned for him to go out there. They just didn't know what he was going to say. They just gave him
shit.
He told him to win. And he started going too far, they cut it off. So it was kind of real, kind of fake. They told him to do it, but they how far it was going to go. So they cut him off. He didn't know he was going to be cut off. But then it opened up a plethora of promos after that, where Punk was just like going in on everybody, man. It was a period. The summer of Punk is what they called it, when it all off, and it was a good time. He had, at that time, I'll say towards the end of his run, he started becoming more of a shadow of himself. He had his own little 5 moves that don't really. He had the couple clotheslines, throw you into the corner, the knee, and the bulldog, and then come up top rope and all that. So he had his own little stick because he was getting older, getting more tired, and wasn't leaving it all in the ring like he could. But he was still one of the best wrestlers pound for pound, and he was always one of the best talkers they had through the what was Straight Edge Society, ECW, when it was Legends versus the New Cats. He was in there. He was always the top guy, always regarded as the top person, even when WWE didn't see him as the top person like he saw himself as. So I don't think we'll ever have that again in WWE, at least in something mainstream like that. The indies are always going to try to emulate it, but it's never going to have that kind of passion in a promo. Not on the mainstream.
And you also got to add on to the fact that CM Punk, he was one of those wrestlers, like no matter who he was in the ring with, he could be in the ring with The Rock, with John Cena, Triple H, doesn't matter. He could clearly outshine them. Given on a good day, he could. So like that pipe bomb was just like the infamous beginning of just multiple other great promos he's going to have, just with other wrestlers, but like with legends, with mainstreams, with wrestlers who headlined the company, like what Harv said. They never really saw CM Punk as just like this big megastar. He just pretty much had to shine out on his own, and that's what he did. Definitely stand out.
Yeah, he was the original B+ player.
Yeah.
So with that being said, so since CM Punk was the first wrestler to acknowledge all that, shout out to the first in their business. But anyway, though, so do you think CM Punk could? You're saying why? What's the problem, Harv?
No,
Nothing.
continue.
All right, cool. So with that being said, do you think CM Punk could have been of the star status of a John Cena or The Rock within WWE?
No, I don't. And I don't think they would have let him do that. Harv brought up a good point, where at the end of his career, he was definitely like a shadow of himself. He wasn't as invested into the career as he was. Not to say that if his passion would have lasted, like if he didn't turn to a shadow of himself, that he wouldn't be great. I think they would have did a what you call a Finn Balor. I think they would have did him as Finn Balor. I think he would have went to NXT. Because once again, he talks about all these good wrestlers and how he don't like this whole entertainment field. I think he would have went down to NXT and helped build that brand. I think that's what happened with him eventually, but they would have never kept him up there the way that honestly he should have.
I think he would have chosen to go to NXT if he had a choice.
Yeah,
but able to hold him down. It was years. It's still in certain areas where they do CM Punk chants. It took years for them to really die down. They were at every other show for like 2 years. And he kept saying he wasn't coming back. He ain't came back. He ain't showed no signs of coming back. And those chants never stopped. They wouldn't have had a choice but to have him on the main roster at some capacity. I don't think that they would have ever regarded him as highly as he got with the promo, but he definitely would have been up there on the main roster doing something.
Yeah.
Cool. I see what y'all talking about, and I see what y'all saying. Y'all just made the next transition to the next topic real easy for me. Speaking about NXT, speaking about the next man up, speaking about the next big thing that could possibly come through the WWE. And we're going to touch on this for a brief second. You know, up and coming rising star that was in the Indies for a good minute. Now he's with NXT. Christian Casanova, now known as Carmelo Hayes, recently has been on NXT TV, which comes on Tuesdays now, and he has had two prominent matches lately. He had one with Kushida, who is currently the 205 Cruiserweight champion right now, and he had a match with possibly one of the best NXT wrestlers of all time, Adam Cole. In my mind, the GOAT of NXT, but yes. So with that being said, he came out this previous week against Adam Cole, and with that, he cut a little quick promo like one of the biggest WWE wrestlers of all time right now, like John Cena, with the whole ruthless aggression, kind of gimmick thing. And he held his own in the ring with him. He sold his moves pretty well. He is very fluent in the ring. And also had a great match with Kushida the previous week before. So with that, this man, he has the look, has the character, has the talent. Do you possibly see him as one of the next big talents within the business?
I got two things to say. Number one, when a wrestler imitates another great moment, normally it does not have that same lasting appeal. As we mentioned with AJ Lee, Harv, you mentioned it was good. It did bring up points, but it wasn't as infamous as CM Punk was. It's the same thing here. Yeah, the whole Kurt Angle, John Cena, ruthless aggression thing, that was definitely a prominent moment that skyrocketed John Cena throughout the rest of his career. But Carmelo, he honestly just imitated that. And even it may have been good. It was the Adam Cole, it was the NXT. It was a good refresh, but it's not going to have that same feel. Second issue is that just because you do well in NXT does not mean that you're going to do well in the WWE, as history has shown. So Carmelo Hayes, he can come out here, put on star-studded matches, great promos. He could be the next North American champion, Cruiserweight champion, NXT champion, Long Range. It does not matter, because the second he goes over to the WWE, if the producers, if the writers don't see the same thing that we see in him in NXT, it will not go anywhere. So this ruthless aggression rehash that he did, honestly, because of where it's at, I don't see it going anywhere.
That's Big Harv using sign language right now.
Really everything Dabo just said is the reason though. I'm not sold. This is way too soon to tell. Not really. He didn't really click for me. He's not really that special, that extravagant, you know what I'm saying? That extraordinary. He's not really that for me. He's decent, you know what I mean? But it's too soon to tell. I got to see more from him. There's no guarantee for anybody. You can't really look at anybody like, oh yeah, he's going to be the next big thing. Oh, Braun Strowman just recently got fired. Rusev just recently got fired. Ain't had plenty of cats who had fit the mold. Really fit the mold, had the crowd behind him and everything. Really didn't even have to try with him, and they just let him go. So I don't know.
And it's funny that you mentioned people getting fired, because WWE has once again made countless releases this past week, and it's been breathtaking. It's surprising, shocking. I'm not really up to date on their number of releases, but I feel like with this year, this is the most releases I've ever witnessed and seen from the business. Like they
with
are
names that are like on TV regularly.
exactly. That's another thing too, because you understand like wrestlers that get cut that like aren't on TV or you haven't seen in a while. It makes sense, but them actually cutting wrestlers that have been on TV and that we literally seen the previous week and now they're no more. It is extremely wild, which is like for it, like Killian Dane, like gone, Brizango gone,
Everride.
what's named the same brothers, what they call them, the Bollywood boys gone. It's way more that I can name right now. But with a lot of these names that did get released, especially with the ones that probably also Kurt Stallion as well, he got released too.
That I invested in
that
him
one.
more.
Caught me off guard because he just recently signed and just got released. You know, he was rehabbing with an injury, which is real unfortunate. Hopefully gets healed and hopefully comes back in the ring. But with that, a lot of people, if you notice, got released that were on the 205 Live roster. And a lot of the old 205 members that were like one of the, I guess you could say the originators that are now on the main roster were posting a picture on their Twitter page of 205 Live, basically like, I guess where it all began. Like mentioned, like with Cedric Alexander, Mustafa Ali, they both posted on their Twitter page. I'm not sure anybody else did, but I know that those are the main two that I saw. And with that, I saw a picture of somebody, forgot who on Twitter, like posted like the remaining roster of 205 Live. And it was probably about like 7 people left. Then when I checked again, 3 of those 7 people were released. That was on that list. So with that being said, is this the possible end of 205 Live? And with that, where did the W possibly go wrong with 205 Live?
Man, look.
I knew you was gonna touch on it first because we were just talking about her.
205 Live needs to go. It's about as useful as the women's tag team championships. They need to get rid of it. They have way too many shows as is that they are spreading these guys out on. They could really just take who's left, 4 people, and distribute them evenly throughout their program and be fine. They can keep the title. I think the title is worth keeping. I do think that there should be a division, but there was never any reason to have a show for cruiserweights, for only cruiserweights. It never made sense to me. The tournament that sparked it was amazing. I don't know why they thought that they could emulate that every week. WWE know that they don't care that much about match quality on a week-to-week basis to the point that it would be able to keep up with what that tournament was. So it was really, for me, it was dead on arrival. I haven't watched 205 Live in a very long time.
Since Enzo was on it, right?
Who was going to say that? No, I actually watched it for quite a while after Enzo was gone.
See, I
Enzo
believe that,
made 205 for me. We had this argument in the chat. Even when Enzo was there, which was the height of it, they didn't handle anybody else right. The division was still dead. That's what I'm trying to get to you. They did one person right. That does not mean the whole division is thriving. Which is why you keep the title and the he was thriving on Raw. He wasn't even, you saw, they set him up on Raw and then he carried it over to 205 Live. He would remember, and that how it went. He had all the showcasing on the actual main show, and then they expected it to carry over to 205. So 205 was never necessary for the cruiserweight title. It was just them trying to cash grab, capitalize on something, get more viewers on another show, keep that money coming in. Understandable, it's a business, but it was never a smart move. It was never going to be sustainable. Just get rid of it. Get rid of it, keep the title. No harm done. Ain't nobody really going to notice, no way. Ain't nobody watch 205 Live. Get out of here. Ain't nobody gonna notice that. Get that out of here, man.
J-Bo.
Okay. So back to Sam's point about the last time watching was Enzo. No, the last time I actually watched 205 was when Leo Rush came out and he debuted. And that was back when Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy was putting on clinic matches.
I do remember that. I'm not gonna lie.
So that was the last time I was watching 205 Live. The problem with 205 Live, and honestly, everything Harv said is correct. The tournament, yes, was great. In fact, I didn't mind if they just kept doing tournaments every year. You know, just bringing new cats. You ain't got to hire these cats, but once again, you know, you highlight these cats in wrestling. You know, that'll work. I think what happened was for years, the fans wanted some type of focus to the cruiserweight division, to the smaller guys, because every week smaller guys would just get, you know, thrashed by obviously bigger people. They wanted the cruiserweight title back because the last time they had it before 205 Live was when Hornswoggle had the belt, and that was obviously a big joke. So they wanted focus. They wanted focus on it, and WWE said, okay, not only will we give you focus, but we'll give you a whole freaking show, and that's not what we asked for. But I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning we took it because they were like, okay, well, there's some type of focus here, but it was never destined to be successful because it was more than what we asked for. And another issue was that it wasn't on regular TV. You had to go to the network to watch it. So you mean to tell me that I'm watching Raw or I'm watching SmackDown and I had to physically turn off my TV and then go to the network just to watch this 1 hour block of wrestlers that you're not even promoting on the main show? All those elements were just set up for it to eventually fail. And then now when they're releasing all these wrestlers that was a mainstay on the show, honestly, when they released Tony Nese, because Tony Nese was, you know, one of the long reign cats on there. When they released him, that's what I said to myself, the show is over. Not saying that Tony Nese was the star of the show, but he was one of the long-reigning in-ring wrestlers, supportive 205 guys. So now that he's gone, yeah, the show is done. But no, the 205 was not destined to be successful, and as we can see, they're getting rid of the wrestlers. There's no point to it at this end.
You know, that Tony Nese should have been on the main roster a while back already, because he fit the stature and the size, and I'm pretty sure he was at the peak of 205 pounds. If anything, he could have bulked up and hit 220 if he wanted to. But with that, surprisingly, I do agree with Harv on his statement about 205 Live, because
that's what I like to hear.
I know, and I hate saying it. But with that, it just, the way the mainstream of the WWE product with Raw and SmackDown, they really want to push the bigger guys, but have a real problem with pushing the smaller guys unless they have a big name or come from somebody from other promotion with a big name. So it's really hard to, I guess, for them like to push these athletes within the business. And granted, I do know that it is an entertainment industry more than a wrestling industry. But with that, they should put the cruiserweight title. I believe the cruiserweight title should be on the main roster, honestly, because obviously NXT is the developmental the show and everything. And obviously that's where a lot of the smaller wrestlers are. But with that, throwing the cruiserweight title on the main roster, it could help promote some of these other wrestlers that are obviously not over 205 pounds, but they obviously lie about their billing weight on the show because they don't want to look like, because we all know Ricochet ain't over 205 pounds. We all know AJ Styles not over 205 pounds, maybe, but they're gonna say, oh, 215. We know it's not. And the cruiserweight weight used to be at 215, actually. So add 10 pounds to that thing, make some more wrestlers be in that weight class. So you utilize that 3 hour block that Monday Night Raw has, like utilize these smaller wrestlers instead of trying to have them being in squash matches when obviously they have talent and they shouldn't just get buried 9 times out of 10 time to enter the ring, you know. So that's just my feeling, because they're trying to use like the mid card titles as a way to push the smaller wrestlers. But no, you just bring back that cruiserweight title. A lot of great cruiserweight matches happened back in the day with like Rey Mysterio and your Billy Kidmans, and even Matt Hardy was a cruiserweight champion.
That was that's kind of what caused it too. You kind of got to blame the fans because we live off of nostalgia. We want that old feeling back. It was everybody. I don't know why, but everybody was posting and videos and all this coming out of the hour of WCW where it was nothing but cruiserweights. That's where the whole thing sparked from. That's where they came the idea. Oh, well, let's give them an hour show. And the fans, you know, people were all for it. A lot of people were. I wasn't, because I knew it was a bad idea, but a lot of people thought that it would be beneficial, like you're saying, to the younger cats or to the smaller cats. But what you're saying is how I felt. Just put it in the show. the show that you already have, that you have 3 hours of, that you're filling up with trash and dance battles and whatever else you got going on, and get these cats something to do.
Yeah, and like with that, like no disrespect to the IWC, and I say this respectfully, we it's a reason why the WWE is the millionaire billionaire dollar business that it is, you know. So with pushing a 1 hour show for strictly cruiserweights, it wasn't it, and we saw what happened. So like I said, they should just threw the cruiserweight title on some show, more than likely Monday Night Raw, because it's the longer show, and just had it like just built up and pushed that way. But we could have probably had a bunch of great cruiserweight matches on this roster. We could have had a bunch of ladder matches, fatal five ways, one-on-ones. It even matters. Like some could have came out of it. Pretty much anything can happen. Rey Mysterio was a cruiserweight champion. He now has what 2 world titles now in his back pocket. So yeah, anything could happen. Anything could have happened. You never know. So yeah, AJ Styles could have won a cruiserweight title. We would have been happy about that, and he could have.
He could have helped. Yeah.
He could have made a big name out of it and just done a lot of stuff. It would have been hilarious.
3 lines. He could have been like a gatekeeper for the title. They could have.
Right. Imagine if Almost was his bodyguard and he the cruiserweight champion, walk around bullying other little people. That would have been hilarious.
That's a solid idea.
Right. Yeah. Like you just got to just think about just little things like that here and there, you know. And maybe like you could like did like maybe like one of the women could have been a cruiserweight champion, like they did with Jacqueline back in the day.
Yeah.
Like somebody strong, like you could see probably like who was like a Bianca Belair or something like that being a cruiserweight champion, or like some like a dominant, powerful woman, like Shayna Baszler, for instance. That could have been good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just something like that. But you know,
Ripley could have fit the bill.
Yeah. Or shoot, maybe just shot in the dark. You know, I didn't really like her when she was on the Ronda Rousey. You know, there could have been something good just for ticket sales, business, entertainment. But with that, no, since we say I'm sorry, Harv.
I said, yep, I agree.
Yeah. But with that, since we are on the topic of releases currently right now, there was releases not only with the in-ring talent, but also with employees of the business as well. And we're going to touch on this topic, like I said, respectfully and gently, because I don't want to, say anything bad, negatively about our people or anything. And I respect everybody in the business, and it's never good to lose your job in any way, shape, or form. So recently, there was a new hire with the WWE that was a writer, who has a good resume in the background in creative writing, storytelling, within her past work in business. And everybody may know who the person is now. I don't want to say the name on the podcast, because I'm pretty sure y'all know already. And with that, she I already said the gender, so it's too late now. So yeah, with that, she was on the podcast, and I mean, it was too late. I was going to try to be brave and say this person, but it's too late. Yeah. So like I said, she was on another person's show and just talking about, her experience so far within the WWE in her hiring process. And with that, she told in her interview that she didn't know any information about the WWE product, or granted, know much about what is currently going on with the WWE. But the fact that she has a great background and experience in, writing and everything that she does with her work experience and everything, that's what got her hired, pretty much. And she exposed that, on this podcast she was doing an interview on. And with that, when the whole wrestling community on social media saw this podcast clip and saw everything, they just went in an uproar and just said, this is why the product is so trash, this and that, yada, yada. And with all that backlash that was going on, basically at the end of the day, it resulted in her losing her job within the WWE. And there was a quote, I guess, from one of those, dirt sheets, rumor sheets, whatever, saying this wasn't the reason that she got let go, but I refuse to believe that, it played a big part on why she got released.
Had to.
I was like everybody listening and watching social media, no matter what you say, the company looks at social media. So they saw what was going on. Granted, not pointing fingers or anything, but at the same time, we learned from this, it's never a good idea to release any inside information about a business on what happened or how you got into the thing. So granted, that was the wrong part on the person got released part, but at the same time, the way that the internet just went around and just bashed this person and just was just dragging them along social media, is the main reason why this person lost a job. And I really feel bad for it, because at the end of the day, you gotta look at it like that. Look at it like this, pretty much. This, like I said before earlier in the podcast, this is a $1 billion business. The WWE just can't hire somebody that just loves wrestling or a big fan of the product if you have no type of experience with what they're looking for. Because at the end of the day, I saw this on one of these clips from another wrestling podcast. I believe it was from Jobberteer's podcast from the guy named Sir Wilkins. Shout out to him. He's great worker. He's great in the wrestling podcast industry and his group as well. And I was watching this clip about when he was talking about the girl that got fired, and he was mentioning there's plenty of people, a lot of people that are within the wrestling business, there are writers that don't know the product. And some of those writers were actually great writers for the product. And I can see that, and I can agree with it as well, because at the end of the day, now if I really look at it and look back at it and like understand it, I would rather honestly have a writer that doesn't know the product so they won't be biased about anything within the business and write out and create some perfect content and quality product for this $1 billion business, to just having some 20 or 30-year fan of a business with no writing experience at all, no creative history at all, just tell, hey, we should do this and this will work out for the business, just for their sole interest in what they think is right for the WWE. And so with that, the social media, the wrestling community, whoever was bashing this person online was wrong. And they really need to look back and just think about how everything works within this business, because it's a whole industry, and it's more than just wrestling. Building these stories and these characters just takes a lot more than just their in ring. It goes outside the ring as well. These are portrayed athletes, superstars, and heroes to some kids and children out there that they have to build on a weekly basis with no breaks. The WWE doesn't take any breaks. They just took off for Christmas recently. That's the only holiday they've taken off. They have no breaks. They go 52 weeks straight, no off season. These people have to constantly come up with new products, new storylines every single week, and it's a lot. I could probably, I have no words for it. Like, I wouldn't be sure if I could do it.
I could do it.
Thanks for letting move hard. That just takes a lot of creative thinking, and that's just a lot, So, but with that, what y'all think about everything? I'm pretty sure y'all saw on social media. I want to let y'all touch on it real quick.
Go ahead, Harv.
All right. So the fans are not wrong for bashing this individual, only because she put her foot in her mouth.
True.
You don't go on a public forum and admit that you don't know anything about the job that you were hired to do. Now, also to the credit of what you said, 95% of the people that WWE hire in an official capacity backstage, whether it's writing or business or anything, don't have any prior affiliation with the wrestling business. very limited big time wrestling companies you can work for, and then transfer over to WWE. So that's not a reason to chastise her or to get on her head and talk all that trash, because that's normal. That's absolutely normal that they hire people not involved in wrestling. That makes perfect sense. It doesn't make sense for your ass to stick your foot in your mouth. You did that. You supposed to fake the funk as far as you can ride it. That was nobody business but yours. You made it everybody else's business. You got yourself fired. That's just 100% what it is. WWE knew that she ain't had no wrestling experience. They knew that. We didn't have to know that. And because we knew that, and there was an uproar of people, and because social media is so loud in 2021, they didn't have a choice but to let that girl go. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It wasn't, and a lot of times we talk about race a lot here on the podcast, because WWE is notorious, past and present, for certain racial issues. This wasn't a racial issue. This was it was stupid. It's plain stupid. Stupid issue. You shouldn't have said anything. You shouldn't have went on that podcast and said anything about what you didn't know. You don't reveal secrets about the product, and you don't admit that you don't know anything about the product. If you can write characters, you can write for WWE. It's really all it is.
Mm.
To your credit, I mean, that's what you said. You have to have creative writing. You have to know how to write for characters. You're not writing for people. These are larger than life figures that they're portraying. You have to know how to write for characters, how to brand storylines, and how to connect things. Granted, WWE don't seem to be able to hire people that's really good at that last part, but that is the job. That's the goal. That's what you need to do. You have to be able to write for characters. So if that was her background, you deserve the job. You got yourself fired. So that's unfortunate. Never want anybody to lose their job in any type of business, especially with how hard things are right now. But I didn't do it. They didn't do it. WWE ain't even really do it. You did that. You lost your job. It's unfortunate, but that's what happened.
Let me start off by saying that the WWE, they became successful because they were a wrestling company with entertainment. They continued their success by being an entertainment company with wrestling. I'm saying that because to the initial point, for WWE multi-million dollar, they can get the best of the best writers. They can get the best of the best people to fill those roles. So no, you do not have to have wrestling experience or knowledge to be successful. As Harv mentioned, yes, you just need to be able to connect the dots. You need to be able to tell good stories or whatever. To me, the problem is that on the main roster, like Raw or SmackDown, in the storytelling department, it's quite terrible. But in NXT, almost every storyline right now is freaking terrific. Do you think that each and every last one of those storytellers in NXT, where it is good, have just complete wrestling experience? Of course not. I'm not going to lie when I say that I would like for her to at least know what Bobby Lashley's name was. I mean, come on, at least know that much. It's the current champion or whatever, like the current poster person, at least that. You ain't got to know how many times John Cena won the belt. You ain't got to know who Pipebomb and what. You don't got to know all that, because that has nothing to do with your job going forward, okay? But there's elements to this where it's, I see the problem, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you put your foot in your mouth at that portion. Like, yeah, you are good at your job, which is storytelling. You could have been actually terrific at what you did, as we mentioned. NXT doing well, WWE doing terrible, but that can go either way. But we will never know, and this is honestly for the future of any other wrestler, we will never truly know how great she will be, or any realization of any wrestler. Any producer whatsoever, as long as you don't talk too much about it. Just hush your mouth. Just hush your mouth and just keep it pushing. That's for any producer coming up in the wrestling business. You can still be great without no wrestling experience. Just for me, you just at least need to know who the WWE champion is. At least know that.
In the infamous words of Vince McMahon, Brett screwed Brett. That's what happened. Brett screwed Brett.
Yeah. That's one thing about Harv right there. He is a straightforward person. He gave the most bold, honest truth.
It's sad, dude. How you do that? How?
Yeah. All right. Like I said, I agree with all the points that you made. You know, I made it sound lighthearted and saw it from a different point of view, but
nah, we grown. We grown.
we grown.
You know what you did. You know what you did. You don't need no sugarcoating. Pull yourself up by them bootstraps. Let's go. You all right, little fella. You all right.
All right, with that is all the time we have for today for season 2, episode 2 of KTR Podcast. Like I said, be sure to do all this for us. Follow us on all social media platforms, KTR Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Another Roast Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, Another Roast Podcast on all podcast platforms. Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcast. Damn, I messed up. Hey, I ain't did that in a long time. Oh, it's early.
You spazzed with it.
I'm gonna blame the morning for it. Oh my God. I gotta start over. Excuse me, guys. Follow us on all social media platforms, KTR Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Know the Ropes Podcast, Facebook, YouTube. Know the Ropes Podcast on all podcast platforms. Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Pipebomb. We are on everything. And don't forget to get your merch at prowrestlingtees.com/KTR Podcast. That's better. Good job, Cinko.
Good job,
This
Cinko.
is season 2, episode 2. Deuce, deuce, dose, dose. KTR. And we are out.
Hey, Harv, let them know what they should be doing.
Big Hobby says, pump those numbers.
Yeah, numbers, letters, all symbols of man-made devices that could cripple us all. Improve we can panicking when storm hits and knocks out the power grid. Are you fully prepared to live off the grid? How you think?